We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Seneca raises a good point. Most of the things that we worry about are simply a figment of our imagination. They're not real, and it's rare that they ever become real. We spend our time worrying about fictional argument situations and risks that never materialize into anything in the real world. All they do is cause us suffering. Pay attention to what you're worrying about. There's a good chance you're simply worrying about your own imagination. It isn't the things themselves that disturb people, but the judgments that they form about them. Whenever we experience something that causes us to suffer, there is a good chance that we're not suffering because of the thing, but because of how we perceive it. For example, imagine you're stuck in traffic. The traffic itself is not good or bad, it's just a line of cars. However, your perception of the traffic makes it good or bad. If you want something good, get it from yourself. As the old saying goes, be the change you want to see in the world. Take responsibility for your thoughts and your actions. Don't expect anything from other people. If you're stuck in a negative situation, be the person to add some good and make it better. If you find yourself complaining about something, think about what you can do to make the situation better. Rely on yourself to improve your life. Don't expect good to come from the world or other people. You might be waiting a long time. You can bind up my leg, but not even Zeus has the power to break my freedom of choice. Epictetus points out an important rule for life. We can't always decide what happens to us, but we can always decide how we respond. We are responsible for how we act and how we react. No one can take this freedom of choice away from us. How does it help to make troubles heavier by bemoaning them? Life contains a fair amount of suffering. It's hard sometimes. However, people often increase their suffering by holding on to their troubles and amplifying them. This is done whenever you moan, complain, act the victim. The alternative is to look at your adversity, find out what you can learn from it, take responsibility for your growth and move on. Very little can be gained by wallowing in self-pity or blaming the world for your misfortune. These things are anchors that hold you to the past and drag you down into the waters of your misery. Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will, and your life will flow well. Epictetus makes an observation here that is key to the development of resilience. We have to manage our expectations. If you hope for everything to behave as you want it to behave, you are setting yourself up to suffer. Most things in life are outside the reach of your control. You have no say in how they will transpire. So if you have placed an expectation on the world to act as you desire, what you have really done is pinned your well-being on events that you have no control over. Your well-being is now at the mercy of chance. It is fragile. Instead, accept that the world and its people will act in their nature. All you can do is decide how you respond to them. The benefit of reading philosophy can be profound. There is a massive wealth of practical knowledge hidden in the pages of books, papers, and essays. There's also benefits in discussing our philosophy, how we deal with different challenges, and our opinions on some of life's more difficult questions. However, Epictetus points out that reading and discussion are only part of the puzzle. To see the full benefits of our frameworks, we need to embody them. We need to practice what we preach, walk the walk, and not just talk the talk. This idea links back to Epictetus' dichotomy of control. There are many things around us that we have the ability to change. However, there are more things that are completely outside the realm of our influence. When we find that we have done all we can to influence our situation, but we still suffer, we are then challenged to look within. We have the ability to lessen suffering by simply changing how we perceive our situation. Can we find something positive in it? Are there any opportunities for growth? Will this hardship make us more resilient in the future? Can we learn anything from this? The only things we really control are our thoughts, beliefs, perceptions, and actions. Everything else is outside the reach of our control. When we realize this, we are able to accept the world around us for what it is and take responsibility for how we respond to it. This prevents us from needlessly suffering because we expect the world to behave in a certain way. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, it provides us with a certain strength. We are responsible for our actions. If we choose to act cruelly, we will do so. If we choose to act with compassion, we will. Everyone has this same responsibility. Wherever there are people, there is the potential for both kindness and cruelty. It's a choice that people have to make. Could some ancient and obscure pages, the private diaries of one of Rome's greatest emperors, Marcus Aurelius, the personal letters of one of Rome's best playwrights and wisest power brokers, Seneca, the lectures of a former slave in exile turned influential teacher Epictetus, really contain anything relevant to modern life? The answer, it turns out, is yes. They contain some of the greatest wisdom in the history of the world. Stoicism has just a few central teachings. It sets out to remind us of how unpredictable the world can be, how brief our moment of life is, how to be steadfast and strong and in control of yourself. And finally, source of our dissatisfaction lies in our impulsive dependency on our reflexive senses rather than logic. Here are 7 ancient Stoic tenets to keep top of mind, to apply to your daily thought processes, and to practice today and every day. Let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day. The one who puts the finishing touches on their life each day is never short of time. There was a tradition in ancient Rome to celebrate the return of a victorious military general with a drawn-out spectacle to sanctify the triumphant leader. On the day of his parade, the victor wore a crown and a purple gold-adorned toga, otherwise reserved for kings. His 4-horse chariot parted the streets lined with thanksgivers chanting, "Io Triumphi," the roars of hooray. O Triumph was muffled by the whisper of slave positioned deliberately in the chariot behind his master's throne. Memento mori. Memento mori. Memento mori, the slave echoed, "Remember thou art mortal. Remember you too must die." The perfect reminder during a man's momentary immortalization. Live each day as if it were your last is a cliché. Plenty say it. Few actually do it. How reasonable would that be anyway? Surely Seneca isn't saying in the above quote to forsake laws and considerations to find some orgy to join, because the world is ending. A better analogy would be a soldier about to leave on deployment, not knowing whether they'll return or not. What do? They get their affairs in order, they handle their business. They tell their children or their family that they love them. They don't have time for quarreling or petty matters. And then in the morning, they are ready to go, hoping to come back in one piece, but prepared for the possibility. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." That was a personal reminder to continue living a life of virtue, now and not wait. Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. Then your life will flow well. It is easy to praise Providence for anything that may happen. If you have 2 qualities, a complete view of what has actually happened in each instance and a sense of gratitude. Without gratitude, what is the point of seeing? And without seeing, what is the object of gratitude? Something happened that we wish had not. Which of these is easiest to change our opinion or the event that is past? The answer is obvious. Accept what happened and change your wish that it had not happened. Stoicism calls this the art of acquiescence, to accept rather than fight every little thing. And the most practiced Stoics take it a step further. Instead of simply accepting what happens, they urge us to actually enjoy what has happened, whatever it is. Not merely bear what is necessary, still less conceal it, but love it. The great philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, many centuries later, coined the perfect expression to capture this idea. Amor fati, a love of fate. My formula for greatness in a human being is Amor fati. Nietzsche said that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity, not merely bear what is necessary, but love it. To wish for what has happened to happen is a clever way to avoid disappointment, because nothing is contrary to your desires, but to actually feel gratitude for what happens, to love it. That's a recipe for happiness and joy. The premeditation of evils is a Stoic exercise of imagining things that could go wrong or be taken away from us. It helps us prepare for life's inevitable setbacks, and develop resilience in the face of uncertainty. We don't always get what is rightfully ours, even if we've earned it. Not everything is as clean and straightforward as we think they may be. Psychologically, we must prepare ourselves for this to happen. What is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect, and unexpectedness adds to the weight of a disaster. This is a reason for ensuring that nothing ever takes us by surprise. We should project our thoughts ahead of us at every turn, and have in mind every possible eventuality, instead of only the usual course of events. Rehearse them in your mind. Exile, torture, war, shipwreck. All the terms of our human lot should be before our eyes. By doing this exercise, Seneca was always prepared for difficulty and prepared to meet any fate, which is a good thing, because nearly every single one of those things actually happened to him.